Hello, we've got a new game. We're on Pillars. Because fucking Hunter's in charge of the lobby, and we're just always going to play on Pillars, apparently, because that's what happens when you put Hunter in charge of the lobby. Team 1 INS, Team 2 OSP, 3K 4v4, Crubble Sam, Lobster Nop, and Hunter on Team 1, Seabot Puppy from Hell, Rymark, and Spicy on Team 2. Also in call with a lot of people, I don't know. What are we going to dip into the VC? I think I'm going to run through all the ships first. And then dip in there. I prefer... I know it's a little different. When we're doing testing, we have everybody. Everybody talking at once. And I think that's useful. Yeah, wow. Look at these fucking teams. Oh my god. Alright, so Team 2 is just monitors and shuttles. And some tugs, apparently, too. Jam tugs and PD tugs. Plasma. Wow, Spicy's build's mega scuffed. Plasma and C90s is probably trying to enable the bomb on big ships, but that's not going to work very well. The plasma's going to help, though. Puffy's bringing also a lot of plasma. And C30s on the nose? Okay, that's kind of bold. Some support ships. Rymark's got just the bomb and T30s. Seabots rocking a 450 SLO. Plasma 100, Plasma 100. The old style, the old build. Monitors. These are also very expensive monitors. What the fuck? Interesting. Yeah, we'll see how well that works. And then he's got an EWR. Okay. Let's not rocking missile ships? Hell yeah. Now is this S2 Storm or S2H Storm? S2 from Not With Love. I look forward to these. Lobster's also got a torpedo sprinter squadron, and they're all over the place. Are these just like... Okay, these are just set up here as mines. They're ready to pounce on someone. I think they're waiting for another big monitor to push off the top of the map, but I don't think that's gonna happen.
The enemy is securing
given that ANS
is
two less than skilled players.
The enemy secured zone.
So they're not gonna be ready to do something so intense.
The enemy secured zone
Also don't know who's leading that team. Presumably Puppy, but Puppy doesn't like to take charge very often, so I don't think they have a leader. Just gonna make things kind of rough. Carbal's got a 450 battleship with some escorts. Yeah, just PD escorts. Ballin'. Just not gonna pay. I'm not gonna give him anything. Hunter's rocking the Empress, the beam battleship, which I think is gonna be really strong against the monitors. Like incredibly powerful against the monitors. This thing's gonna come up behind the little rock here that my mouse is on right now. You can see my mouse, right? Yep. And it's just gonna delete anything hitting for Alpha. Notably, OSP doesn't have any map presence ships. Like they don't have any cap ships. All their support ships are meant to escort the monitors. So this is a pure oops all monitors build. Bonk. Great hits. Let's dip back into the voice comms. See, listen to everybody.
Oh, and they're getting taken out already. Puppy's also lost some health on the monitor.
Yep.
Oh, and he's got no DC team, so it is guaranteed dead.
It's Capper now, I guess.
No, it's
The enemy is securing.
Didn't have a crit on it.
Yeah, reactor dead.
Oh.
Yeah. Was it? I think it was drive or reactor.
Reactor.
Oh no.
Oh,
These don't have any DC or PD.
Oh, well that would be where the
jammers.
compromise came in. Oh yeah, jam is useful, right? Against ANS missile spam.
The way these are working, they're looking like they're command. So
yeah, SAC's not a thing, right?
I'm pretty sure these are command torps or command guided.
They're not jamming out a bullseye at that range. Probably not. Oh no, AMM's...
Only one hit, I think.
It's two.
The escorts came in to save the day.
Yeah, but one's gonna be down and lost a reactor, and he's
yeah, and even with all this jamming, they're still just spotted. And
That's
the only thing that can see them is this. Yeah.
Monitors are fucking fat. I know Nup said it earlier, like, oh, who's gonna hide monitors with jamming? It's like,
It doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't. because they're big and they're rectangular, and so they have a pretty decent radar signature, and they can't really angle much to get any deflections. And especially if you put jammers on the monitors, which dramatically increases their size, puppy. Come on, you're better than this.
It's only
So-
20%.
When I
So
started
much.
experimenting with monitors on live, the very first thing I tried to do with them was hide them with jamming. Because theoretically, they are small-ish, kind of, and they're immune to RPF, functionally. It never once accomplished anything.
The
Yeah,
enemy is
they just
securing Zone
fucking
Atlas.
deleted.
Hope the bully mates are into bucking the Bellbird more in future, but we'll see. Because it doesn't really just do that much for OSP right as it currently is.
I'd start to get worried about overbuffing it for small ships, though. You don't really want to get to the point where a single tug can just jam out a parallax burn from like 7 kilometers away. You can only start dialing it up that much before it just becomes ridiculous for small ships.
And that does have
Yeah, that-
floodlights though, which, but yes, I get your point.
Floodlights work worse on smaller ships, so
True.
I mean,
Like, you're not
tug
gonna-
swarms can
Okay,
already
back to
jam pretty decently, and you have to
Yeah.
RPF them already anyways, so I don't think buffing the Bellbird is going to make that much of a difference there. It just makes it a little more feasible to influence bulk freighters, which I don't even know if that's possible. Bulk freighters in their current state basically can't be hidden by jamming. And
I think you can hide them with like 5 or 6, like right at the edge of diminishing return cap.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
have
but they
to
also have to
keep
be
them at
nose on.
range, and you have to spam out Bellbirds beyond belief in order to do it. But it is possible.
And you
it's
can't deny
real.
locks.
I don't think it would be particularly healthy to have a ship consistently hidden by jamming that is also immune to RPF.
Well, and that's something else. But
Isn't that
consider
functionally?
the voxel.
Yeah, like that's kind of the condition for Alliance though. Although OSP does have the Bloodhound, which does mitigate that somewhat.
Yeah, I don't think the bulk fighter should be able to be reliably hidden by jamming at all, but I do think
OSP
you should be
doesn't
able to
have
use it.
RPF, so Annis jamming is fundamentally different in character.
We got
The
RPF
enemy
now,
is
baby.
securing Zone Eclipse.
Of a sort.
Close
Prefer
enough.
the jamming lob though.
Just position fire down the jamming lob. It's fine.
It's
Unironically, yeah.
harder,
massive
but
nerd.
yeah.
That's definitely a difference in skill requirement, though, versus just right-clicking LOB.
I almost wonder if it should be turned into RPF just to equalize the skill, but then that like removes the
that.
really thematic nature of it being time.
I love bombs. Even if they're fucking unoptimal, I fucking love them.
Yeah, they're pretty obtuse, but they're really baller. I like the time fuse, although I think it needs a little more plus or minus variance, because it seems to, well, maybe not. Maybe it's just rolls, but it winds up landing like in front of ships more than behind them.
There's like
Yeah.
the time fuse is actually set to do that. I saw a discussion on Test
The enemy secured
that's
Zone
discussing for
Eclipse.
it where I think the way it's currently fused, if it's perfectly accurate, it'll miss about 20% of the time because of the fusing.
No,
It'll detonate too
no,
far in front of the
no,
target.
no. I'm saying that the time fuse, which does have variance inside of it, programmed about a third of a second, always seems to burst in front of a target. If you're track firing, like how far in
Yep.
front, it'll vary. It won't ever fly
Oh.
behind something and then pop behind it.
Oh, I know. It's like, I think it's like third of a second plus or minus 0.25 or something. There's some sort of thing, but it is set that the actual base fusing distance variance is in front of where it actually is supposed to hit.
Yeah,
I
I
see.
forget who I was talking to. It was either
God damn.
Lone Wolf, I think,
There go the beams.
said that they're set to where the variance is in front of the position or track that you're firing at.
Got it.
I don't think
So
that
it
was
is-
me, but yeah.
So I think it is deliberate, but it
Okay,
is
I was just
causing
having
problems. So probably tell Mazer to
I-
dial it down a little.
No, I just think that it's weird that it's only popping in front of ships. I figured with the time fuse it'd be more interesting if it could burst all around the ship. I do think it that helps make it a little more effective when fighting alongside plasma ships. To be sure, but
I mean, it is missing about 20% of the time on a perfectly stationary target,
Oh, void
which
berries.
isn't ideal.
I don't think that's
void
correct.
That's what I saw in discussion of it. That's just if you've got a target with a perfect track, it fuses so far out that it literally won't hit the target about 20% of the time.
Because there's a random fuse variance, like
Yeah.
plus or minus.
The plus or minus, if it's at its worst, farthest away on top of the base offset, yeah, it'll actually fuse outside.
Yeah, I think that happens with track firing, but I tend to pause fire with bombs. So I make them blow up wherever the hell I want.
Puppy's getting absolutely destroyed by the beam battleship.
Yeah, I mean, Nop. How many missiles does Nop have left?
Jimmy Mount.
The icons are still green, so
quite a
over
few.
50%.
Yeah, probably
14
quite a few
ship.
still. Alright. Are they?
Yeah,
Sprinters
they're
have-
S2s.
Yeah,
he's using
sprinters
S2s,
have-
that's why. Right.
S2H.
Okay, that's why.
sprinters
S2H
have
command guided.
rising.
I was wondering why I was doing so little damage. Also, that would be why he's doing so little damage.
Yeah, the grazers are not helping much. S2H. Yeah, but I guess the flak did some job. But yeah.
And that's why I brought S2H in that first game that we had. Just to deal with the grazers. Because I will say that's something that's nice about the changes. There's no longer just like one PD build for OSP. Now different missiles actually gets through different sort of designs.
Are those torpedoes?
They
Yes.
Oh, they chose the wrong fleet to attack. That is a
Yeah.
lot of PVs.
Yeah. That's a
They
very
got
good
some
idea
hits,
to
but
put
not
putties
enough
on your
probably
monitors.
for the investment.
But we still haven't seen much in the way of OSP missiles other than rocket containers, which we know are overpowered. But I really would have liked to see some more EOD containers and S2 spam and even some torping. I was trying to get some torps to work. Oh, I guess that was the actual first game. I was trying to get torps to work. Man, Hunter just tore those monitors apart. Trying to get torps to work, but I wound up forced into a bad position and I just got fucking obliterated. Like long range, slower burn torps instead of high agility, close range torps. Since with the armor changes, you can ostensibly spend more time in flak, so you can afford to take less top speed.
I mean,
Where's this?
problem is you still take a lot of if they have any defenders or pavis.
Yeah, which is why you put weave on your missiles.
So the issue I found with that is if you're shooting a torpedo salvo, they're usually spread out. So the slower they are, the more the spreading out matters, and therefore the more sort of opportunity 20mm gets to shoot everything down. And that still applies even with weave.
Really?
So it's not as important as with flak, but you definitely still benefit quite a bit from speed.
Not really, because the DPS on those is so high.
BRB.
There's still somewhat of a retarget time. Even if it only takes a quarter of a second, if your orbs are going half their potential speed, you're still giving them twice as much time that loss will stretch to intercept.
Which faction are you talking about attacking?
Torpedoes versus ANS. Because with how defenders are, if you have, they don't really get effective, like really effective until you're sub 1 kilometer. And you're not going to spend that much time there, even with the load speed.
My problem with torps that are long range against ANS is, and I think always will be, just the nature of the way terminals seem to be programmed. where they reduce in magnitude the longer the missile is traveled.
Really?
It's not something I've seen documented. I have no idea if it's intended, but ever since the new torps were implemented, I've noticed it. It's kind of undeniable because I kept trying to make long-range torps with more and more maneuverability, and it just didn't make a difference beyond about 4.5 kilometers or so.
That's
They would
very
just
I know-
straighten out and
interesting.
get shot by defenders.
I know it was changed at some point, so that when missiles go when they're actually seeking on their target, they will stop maneuvering as much to make them not miss constantly. But it could be something to do with that. I don't know.
The issue is if you fire them from within like 4 kilometers, they'll stay huge magnitude until right towards the end of their terminal attack run. Like moments before impact is when they'll finally straighten out.
Yeah, that's something I noticed about containers today. Is containers straighten up from their terminals at like 1.2 kilometers, which is just like mostly within the good envelope of a defender.
Pointless, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
So notably, even though OSP's been kind of militarily smashed, they have managed to spread out and get the cab advantage. Still down by about 300 points, but I think the beam battleship just running it down mid is really fucking effective. Just not too surprising.
We're gonna use the rock turn.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's gonna do.
I'm still grumpy about balance. Because on the one hand, I think there's a genuine problem with 450, but on the other hand, I would like to see weapons other than 250 get used, and that includes beams and missiles. And I feel like this is an opportunity for that to be a reality.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about beams. It feels like ANS, if they try and rush in OSP with beams, they'll just cease existing.
Well,
And
rushing is
beam
fucking
DDs
stupid.
just don't function properly for a number of reasons.
You have to use your beams properly. That's why Hunter's been doing all this cutesy-wootsy cover stuff.
Yeah, the difference between the run-it-down mid beam battleship and the map control opportunistic battleship that Hunter plays, for example, is really enormous.
Yeah, he's kind of doing both, right? Because like right at the start, he just burned forward really hard.
Well, yeah, because what's going to stop you at the start?
Yeah. And was able to get some early monitor kills, and then has shifted into the careful controlling battleship, and that's being very effective. Because right now nothing has a good sightline on him, so he's fine just pushing. I mean, the monitor's on Delta too, but I think they're they're Primarch's 100mm monitors. They're gonna do fuck anything.
If he works with Spidicy, who brought way too much plasma, they might get enabled.
Maybe, but those are off angle right now. Those don't have a line. Because they're up on Charlie, yeah.
Yeah, what is he?
I would love to see more missiles and beams out of ANS. I do think beams are in a really good place. I mean, the one of the games where it felt like monitors were overwhelmingly oppressive was basically one off the back of Internet Explorer's beams. Because we were getting pushed really hard, and then the monitors pushed just a little too far, and the beam destroyers came out and just deleted like 7 or 8 of them.
It's good that with how heavily armored these monitors are, and now that if they actually get buffed by this update, there's going to be a lot of ideal targets for beams now.
Yeah, because part of the problem with beams beforehand was, yeah, sure, they have the really high DBS, but you don't like need them against anything. You don't feel there's no target out there that you'd say, you know what I'd rather have than anything else? Beams. Like that just doesn't
So-
exist, but I think that changes with the current state of the monitor, to be sure.
Is this a UI bug? Because this says that he's got a lighthouse equipped, and I'm not.
Who's got a lighthouse?
Spadici, CSF leader 1-1.
I mean, yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
But I don't see it.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
It's on the bottom.
where?
On the bottom of the
Oh,
monitor.
you're looking at the wrong ship. You don't have that one selected, I don't think.
God damn it. Losing my fucking mind. Okay,
Professional idiot.
that's me.
Mid cannot. that
I'm just gonna have
fucking
to keep
slew
that.
me so hard when you did that. That's so fucking funny.
Oh man, that baby is getting messed up now.
Yeah, now that the plasma's coming in.
Yeah.
And the 600 millimeter HE is getting supported by, I think, 100 mil probably as well. I mean, the plasma's actually doing damage now, which is nice. Grape?
Look at that AoE. Oof.
I don't know about grape, Chief. It's definitely causing crits.
Probably
I
just got the
underestimated
mixed
600
salvo.
I underestimated 600 millimeter against battleships because I thought of it as just shooting 600 millimeter. It turns out it actually ruins battleships day when you combine it with plasma,
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
god.
because you
The
don't
enemy
need to
is
zero the
securing
armor
zone
to make
boxer.
it pen on most hits, and then it's just punches things out.
There's a little bit of problem with damage splitting though, but you know, it's it is respectable.
I'm not sure what the fuck Nott's doing. Oh, I see. Okay.
And yeah, this is what I mean by being battleships can struggle. Like he's done well, but if anything goes wrong at all, you're just kind of dead.
I don't know about that one, Chief. I think it's the cheapness of plasma is what's doing this more than anything else.
Well, plasma is cheap and noticeably more effective, which means people are going
Yeah.
to bring it, which means
Yeah.
armor is worse.
The
Yeah.
enemy secured
And the
zone
beam
boxer.
battleship relies on that.
I still maintain that plasma's too strong for its price right now.
Yes.
I don't
Like,
I
a
don't
lot.
think that's contentious at all. Too strong for its price, yes. Too strong straight up, maybe, but
I think for
Again,
how
we
strong
were
it is now, it would have to cost more than it did.
for sure.
We were seeing plasma almost become a preferred tool for OSB in the live version, and it got pretty huge buffs.
Yeah,
So
plasma
I really
250
do
was
think
like
there's room for adjustment.
the thing. I think a lot of the buffs were intended to make plasma 100 more practical because
work.
that's like what it's intended to be used with, not
Well, if
the
that's the case,
medium
well, if that's
caliber.
the case, in the sorry, I interrupted. But if that's the case, then we should really buff the T81 and not buff the C81. But no.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah,
it's cheaper.
agree.
I guess I'm really against making them cheaper. I feel like they should have been made stronger at their current price, but at their old price. But well,
It's,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
agree.
so to be fair, I think the main thing making me wonder if monitor plasma is still viable, as opposed to just running mono 600 mil casemate, is that the plasma casemate
The
is
enemy
so
is
dirt
securing zone
cheap
comet.
that on a swarm you can actually get a surprising amount of them. Now, whether or not that's even a desirable thing, I'm not convinced. But it being that cheap does kind of enable it on monitors, despite it being much worse than a line plasma.
yeah. And I honestly, having just one plasma turret on a monitor fleet, one on each, is more than enough. Like, because then you can put a T30 or whatever else you want on the other mount, and it's still enough plasma to enable your C90 to pen and your T30s to pen on the second salvo.
Well, there's another thing too that I haven't seen tried yet, and I want to try at some point, which is monitors actually have a lot of module slots now. You could build a full plasma monitor and slap a bunch of E-Regs onto it, and
Yeah.
mix that into an otherwise gun squadron that is strapping
enemy
ammo
secured
elevators
zone
to
common.
its
That's a
100
good point.
mils and 600 mils.
And then
That's a really
cry
good
when
point.
your PMN gets focused fired and killed. And your whole fleet. I mean, it would take a minute or two, or whoever knows how long, depending on the weaponry, but it would very quickly ruin your ability to deal damage. That's what I think part of the power of the monitor swarm is, all the redundancy. And I think that's the problem with trying to make tall monitors, as Wolf said, is you really don't want that, because you're probably going to lose a couple of them, and you really don't want one of them to be focused down. So you need to be able to, you need to spread your stuff out, and that reduces your ability to build tall, because you don't get as much benefit from the buff modules. That's actually something I've
Yeah,
noticed.
it's possible to make a world where, like, you know, the amount of buffing modules you put in a monitor is not connected to the variety of weapons on it. Like, but with how plasma and 100s are, like, their buffing modules aren't the same. Yeah, that kind of is how it works, because if you go tall, then you're only buffing one type, or you're buffing two types, not quite as well. So
So my thing is, while plasma, or with monitor armor at its current value, I'm not convinced that you actually can pick out like the 2 plasma monitors in a fleet of 6
The enemy is
quickly
securing
enough
zone
from
common.
stopping them from plasmaing you, at which point all the guns are still there. It's kind of like the plasma line problem. You kind of have to catch them out with the engage to stop them from putting a bunch of purple at you.
But can the rest of the monitors follow up quickly enough to stop the target from just rotating its armor? Because it only takes about a minute to cripple a barrel mod, you know, capital levels of firepower, or mass 250.
I mean, we've been seeing this in the fight against Kerbal Sam's FTL battleship. That plasma. Did I just see plasma ping? What the fuck? That like it's. I'm guessing is because it's not locked. They don't have a very good track.
The
Yeah, they
enemy
just lost the
secured
track,
zone
so it
common.
couldn't have been a good track. This is not a very plasma battleship, even though it's been getting blasted at for a while.
Yeah, I also think it's probably close to the max
The enemy is
range
securing zone
for
boxer.
plasma, considering where it's at.
It's able
So
to do the
that's what,
standoffs.
usually like 3K to there, and so like there's probably 8K.
Yeah.
Sam's been doing good about keeping the range.
I might say something silly here, but I think their mistake was that they didn't mega death ball with all these
The enemy is
monitors.
securing
Just
zone
go over
dagger.
A.
Yeah, I think that's something else. Is if they just bunch up, the monitors are so slow to kill individually that you can get
I think
a lot
fucking
of
Nop
firepower out.
sprinters are fucking MVP. Like they have just
We are
been
contesting zone
deleting
boxer.
shit. These are responsible for so much of this gray over here.
Oh yeah.
The enemy is securing zone
And there's
boxer.
2 more.
And then something else with all the monitors death balled, it's a lot harder to get good missile strikes off. So many reactor blows. I think that's one of my favorite things about the patch in its current state, is the boosties being more willing to explode, because it makes for a lot of very pretty explosions. Because everybody's still bringing them, because they're kind of fucking
The
required.
enemy is securing zone boxer.
So I have
Yeah.
actually started making an effort to not bring them on my monitors, specifically because I don't have infinite damage control teams, and I don't want to have to be forced to task them to the reactor when it
Yeah.
gets nudged.
Yeah.
So I have actually just given up and ripped all the grazers off my monitors.
Interesting.
Well, we got solidly beat.
Oh yeah. Holy shit.
I think that points to the lack of Imin's offensive firepower. So their slowly dying ability makes it to where if you group a whole bunch of them up in Death Ball, it takes forever to reduce their combat capability. But if they're spread out all over the map, then the amount of firepower one individual group is outputting relative to its time to die isn't very oppressive.
Yeah. No, I do agree with that. And then also, if you death ball, though, it's like the slowest ship.
It's
I'm
time slower
also,
than an ANS Death Ball.
I'm also not convinced of the C90's like pure offensive capabilities. It's a good,
It's pretty
like,
bad.
yeah, it's awful. Like it's a good if you want to hold a point, but if you're gonna fight with it, I think there's better options.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, like I was remarking while I was being shot at that for a fleet that's not purely designed for offensive damage, you do actually do quite a bit of damage.
To be clear, this is the maximum amount of C90 damage you can do in a fleet. Like
it wasn't
actually.
just the C90s; it's like also the T30s as well. Like I don't know, I was taking a lot of damage at one point, and it was pretty quick.
It gelled with the plasma extremely well.
Yeah. I mean, Puppy got really unlucky that game.
Yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
I deployed into like 3 fleets, 2 fleets.
Yeah, pretty much. You deployed into 2 fleets, and then a 3rd fleet came and helped kill you. So it's just like,
Also throwing with putting jamming on monitors.
well,
I think that's unfair.
I think they're too big for it to help that much. I really do, especially if you put the
Well,
jammers on
they
the
certainly
monitors.
didn't help.
Yeah, yeah.
So from my perspective, and I don't know if my team fully agrees with me here, but it seemed like we kind of, it's really hard to fight monitors straight up, and I don't really know whether that's kind of like whether that's like intended or not, but like ANS already has a difficult time fighting liners in a straight fight, and now monitors are kind of entering that territory as well. And there are certain trade-offs that you make between the two of them, but like, and I mean, you guys lost that game, but it's like 2 of your fleets got poorly positioned and then killed very quickly.
Yeah.
So if that didn't happen, like I don't know, like you can basically indefinitely kite like a beam battleship with monitors. I feel like battleships definitely do a lot worse against monitors than
I don't know. You were beating me.
Yeah, like
I don't know about that.
Basically, our team kept saying in comms about how we couldn't take 3 of the points because of the beam BB.
Yeah, but that's positioning. I could, like.
But like, yeah, but you can position.
Right, but we can't fight you straight up. You can push us.
Yeah, like I would say that match probably went about as well as it could for ANS. Like you got a strong surprise, and then you pushed a weak point, and then it kind of left the other 2 monitor fleets trying to scrabble about capture points where you had positional control. But if it didn't go as well in the beginning, I don't know if that had been an even as a match.
No, I agree. I
Also,
completely agree.
I kind of want to point out that the T30 might be the most powerful anti-light ship weapon in the game right now. Because RPF allows you to hit dodging stuff, right? But this thing just deletes things in like 30 seconds.
I mean, you just don't see a concentration of anti-light like this because you can like justify it in ways that you can't in ANS, right? Because like I just have more small turrets than any Alliance fleet.
Yeah, I think plasma makes the small turrets more viable as like sort of general purpose for OSP.
Because like even 250 HE can overpen a lot, but
Another thing too is like this is something I'm noticing with the plasma, okay? And I played a game against Corbeau and some other people on main before the test branch came out with shitty plasma. And I was literally flying around out in the open in this this exact Beam BB build against a team that was 3/4 of it was composed of plasma. I was fighting against much less plasma this time, and I immediately was not able to move around in the open, like at all. I had much less freedom of movement, and the plasma buff alone, in my opinion, in some ways, is feels like it's really offsetting some of the downsides of the monitor to begin with. And it did make me question the point of having it have this much armor in addition to the buff to plasma, aside from the guns doing less damage to it.
You're absolutely right that the plasma buff does help the monitor function in that way, right? Although, like, to be clear, it did not actually get a buff for armor pen stuff. I've gone through the patch notes, I've talked to people, it just didn't.
I'm pretty sure everyone here knows how it's changed, but that change alone is really strong, is what I'm getting at. And it's
I
like,
believe somewhere in the bug fixes, it ended up getting a larger splash radius in addition to its higher damage,
which is huge. So I looked into it. The larger splash radius was erroneously like left out of the public patch notes, but I believe it still is in there. The splash increase. So we've got cost decrease, component damage bug fix, and armor shred splash increase.
yes.
Well, and its damage was buffed too, right?
No, the buff was that was reverted. That was reverted once we figured out the bug fix.
I mean, it was effectively, you got 5 times effective damage.
Yeah, it's a bug fix that has resulted in improved damage. Kind of like the
it's a better enabler now.
The last bug fix resulted in reduced damage.
Yeah. Well, ironically, that one resulted in so much reduced damage because it also added a bug.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when it
Not
comes
40k
to researching
S2H
balance,
sprinters. That's all I gotta
there's
say.
just no difference between a buff and a bug fix that improves something.
Yeah. Yes. That is. Yeah.
So I personally, after all these games we've played tonight, my opinion is that the monitor's armor should go down because it feels a little bit like, first of all, you can't engage it straight up in a swarm. It's just really fucking hard. You have to kite it. So if people bring a lot of monitors, like, what do you fucking do other than get lucky? Like, that's really kind of what it feels like. And
I think
I don't mean that just as in, okay, only the monitor's armor is doing that. I mean, like, all the other changes that have happened that are giving it this advantage.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say reducing its armor and forcing the pilot to rely on angling a little bit more to survive is probably the better call overall. Because right now it's just, you can just kind of fly in a straight line, and depending on what you're fighting, it's really not doing anything to you.
I think 48 would be an interesting number to try.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because it slightly enables 250 AP a bit more. It definitely enables 450 HE more, but still keeps it pretty healthily above not concentrated 120 fire.
I mean,
Well,
we can
concentrated 120 fire doesn't matter unless it's double the armor. So it doesn't matter for that really, unless you want to change the shredding shit. But
yeah,
like 40, like I don't want to say 46 because I feel like 46 might be too low versus 250 because that is another aspect of this is we do want 450 to be used a little more. So 48 seems reasonable. But I don't know, just all the changes together, right?
How can you just pull another BB situation? Like, give us 46 CM hulls, 48 CM hulls in the current hull, and see how it is.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Someone would.
Is that what they did with a recent BB change or an old one?
Yeah.
Well, that's how we. That was like the second phase of Battleship Armor Tech's thing. Is it came out at 60. We pretty resoundingly agreed that 60 was too fucking much, but nobody could decide what the lower value should be. So good old John Nebula said, "Okay, here you go," and gave us a bunch of different kinds of battleships.
Yeah.
I do want to see us test specifically monitors against Brig Blob because I haven't really seen that. and that's like one of the main things that it's meant to exist for.
I'll be honest, in this form, it will annihilate Frig Blob. Like, I
Yeah.
don't even need to see this. Like, I fought 1v1 on Frig Blob, and like the monitors only keep scaling better.
Yeah, and it's like the beam battleship doesn't do that amazing against the monitors. So I don't
Beams
know
have
about
always
the
struggled to
Frig
kill
Blob there.
monitors efficiently.
That's as much. I don't know if I agree with that, but that's more the plasma changes coming into effect than anything to do with armor.
That's okay. I can
I
see
think
that.
the greatest asset the monitor will have against the Frigblobs is the bombshell, because that stuff's a little strong.
Yes, the bombshell is amazing and probably needs to be tuned down, honestly.
No!
I don't.
No,
I mean,
agree
I don't
with
know
that at
about that
all.
actually. You guys were firing that bombshell at one of my sprinters from the blob that went from B to C. How many monitors were in that group? 8? 7?
So you were probably being shot at by 2 or 3 at a time.
No, just like who? Can you just answer the question? How many monitors were in that group?
So
Yeah, that was
it started at 6, right?
The group that was going from B to C.
4 monitors, but we had 2 fleets combined.
So it was 6 plus 4.
I don't know if the upper fleet was shooting at you.
So basically most of my ships weren't shooting at that is the trick.
There
Well,
was one
you're
point
not
where a
who's being
lot
talking
of them
about.
were shooting.
The Bravo Charlie fleet had 4 monitors in it, and the Bravo Delta fleet had the 6 monitors.
Yeah.
My impression is that the bombshell is actually not that great against lone ships.
Yeah.
But it's very powerful against swarms.
Yeah.
Which, that's fine.
Yeah.
I honestly don't think it's going to be that good against swarms, because you can just have your ships fly 600 meters apart.
So like I've done the swarm fight is the trick, right? Like the advantage of the giant swarm is that you'll definitely hit something when you're blind firing, so their jamming is effectively nothing. And like you still often hit multiple.
Well, I guess we gotta try it at some point then.
Yeah, I think we need to cook up some Frig Blobs. I was doing that earlier today. I think the biggest thing. So this is something I was gonna bring up. We were talking about the bomb earlier, but it's too many things, too many other things to talk about. I think the biggest difference that makes is because the bomb can kind of hit any of your ships. You're gonna want to spread your jamming out somewhat, because you don't want to risk your single jam ship getting budget RPF'd to death, and now suddenly you're out of jamming. So if you're farming out your jammers, that means you're getting less benefit from buff modules for everything, because presumably you're not going to put a cooling amplifier in a ship that has just 1 jammer on it, and that also means you're going to have 1 less gun. So now your ammo elevator is going to be less effective as well, and that adds up across an entire fleet.
I'm sympathetic that people might do this, but I'm not certain that they're really going to, because like it's just as likely to hit multiple things, right? Like you aren't inherently definitely saving this. You're just making it hedged a bit.
Well, that might help if you actually are running your frigates like 600 meters apart.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, it would, because it's a fucking 1 kilometer diameter. It's not going to impact as many of them.
Yeah. And I think running them spread out, especially if you spread the jammers out as well, isn't that big of a deal. It just means that holding space is going to be a little bit more complicated, because you inherently have a physically larger blob.
Yeah, and if that blob drifts too close because it's giant, then the small arms just eat it up.
It's definitely something worth testing in any case, but I think we do need, without question, multiple versions of the monitor.
I'm not sold on that. I think we can just do a slight reduction in armor, honestly. I don't think it will change a lot of this, but...
Well, the multiple versions is just so
You
for
only do it once.
yeah, you release all 3 of those, and so instead of we just take off 2 centimeters, and then 2 days later we're harassing Mazur again. Hey, can you take off another 2 centimeters? This is too much. We can just
In my
test all of them
experience,
together.
but when we did that with battleships, one of the variants basically was untested because nobody wanted to bother.
Well, that's because we did the version that was 2 centimeters higher than that, and it was not quite good enough.
Lol. Dude, the whole reason that went untested was because I said this isn't gonna fucking work, and then no one ever played through me, and Dark had to fucking organize with 58, and then predictably there was a demonstration that okay, it's less aggressive because what was it? Who was it that said the armor buff was basically just a mobility buff?
Hi.
Yeah, Corvo. So yeah, like that. I don't know. That's not how I looked at it, but personally, it was like, 56 isn't gonna work. And I'm sure a lot of people are gonna feel the same way about different armor, depths for the monitor. It's like, oh yeah, okay, well 46 is clearly too low,
And,
but fucking some people are gonna disagree with you, and they should be allowed to test that as well. So.
and notably, we did play one game with 56, and it did not go well.
Did he even give us a 56? I thought he only gave us 54 and 58.
No, 56.
It's 58,
58,
56, 54.
60, 54.
No, it was 56, 58, 60, I believe.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe
there
that's
was no
what it was.
54.
I think
did
everyone
try the
agreed that would be
56.
way too.
It just went
Yeah.
so poorly that,
It was
there
obvious.
was not much impetus.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't need to do that twice.
But
I mean, I think we did do it twice, but I think that was about the limit.
the point being that just because other people think that it's not worth testing doesn't mean that everyone thinks that. And they should be allowed to test it because maybe they're right.
I think just giving multiple versions of a ship with the same number tweaked in different ways is like a really it just puts less burden on the developer because he doesn't have to keep adjusting it based on feedback. You can just be like, all right, go fucking here you go. Come back to me in a week.
I flatly don't agree. That only works if you have a very specific group that you trust absolutely to take very rigorous notes. Because, like, honestly, otherwise,
has that.
well, sort of. I don't know how much faith he has. But like,
I mean, these are getting
otherwise,
recorded. I think that's pretty good notes wise.
You can be very afraid that like they screwed up this aspect of it. People are arguing about this version, but they did it wrong. So now you have like these 5 different variants to juggle. And if you have multiple axes, if you're testing more than one thing with variants, it just becomes absolutely a nightmare to track.
Well, you very obviously don't play all the different versions at the same time. You only do one at a time.
We didn't do this during the
We did that multiple times. We'd say, okay, everybody bring this specific battleship, and that's what people brought.
Sure, but my point is, if you did more than one test in this way at once, it would go really wrong.
Okay.
Haven't we
I'm
proven
gonna close out this
we can do
video.
it before?
All right, we've definitely gotten into the weeds like a lot now. Oh. Ugh. I hope that was useful to you, dear viewer. These are getting dumped out pretty fast. I hope that's not too overwhelming. And you have a good night. These are, let's get a little heated sometimes. People are very passionate about Nebulous Fleet Command. People are very passionate about Nebulous Fleet Command. There's a lot of reasons behind that. I could go on for probably a couple hours about how significant this game is for the hardcore space enjoyers out there. I mean, and you've heard it before on this channel, but especially when me and Asmo get talking about the old days, because we're old. Like this is a game certain people have been waiting for 20 plus years, 25 years, 26 years. It's quite something. So we get very passionate about the game. There's a lot of results in some emotional tension, especially in the testing games when we're deciding what the future of the game will look like. Well, I guess we're not deciding; we're just talking about it. A certain John Nebulous is the deciding factor. We don't have. Yeah, that's something else that should be noted for anyone who's watching this. If you're not familiar with like the social arrangement, I guess nobody in any of these calls has any fucking power to do anything. Mazerwa develops the game and he makes decisions based on feedback, but like we don't actually make any choices. So if something is not the way that you want it to be, don't fucking bother me about it. Yeah, we're all just a bunch of very enthusiastic nerds. And if you are also an enthusiastic nerd, come on down to the Coliseum. I've got a Discord link in the description. We're doing testing games. We're probably going to be doing testing games for the next however long the patch takes. We put the tournament on hold, by the way, for those of you who don't know about that and are looking forward to watching that be uploaded, but don't keep an eye on that situation because the new patch is coming out and it's a complete like OSP rebalance. A lot of people just want to play the testing games, and it said, "Fuck it, we'll wait a month to do a tournament." They don't care. It was we did a few different votes, and it was I think it was 40 to 5 or something like that. It was 36 to 4 was the votes for waiting of tournament people who go into the tournament or people who are signed up for the tournament. People to wait for them to wait until the patch is like fully done. The people yearn for the Testulous. So there's a little news update for you. That's it. Good night. Bye. Go away. These are chaos. I hope you enjoy them to a degree. I know I certainly do.